Gentlemen, to game 2 between TES and EDG. Last game we had a surprise upset come in without a shadow of a doubt. Everybody expected EDG to run TES over like a deer caught in headlights. Unfortunately for the EDG fans, Top Esports actually came through with a beautiful win, really leveraging their just teamwork and power overall. Not to mention Karsa's ability on that Diana, which was insta-lock practically. Now on the side of EDG, we honestly have some very rapid fire lock-ins coming in. We do have, of course, the Nocturne coming in. That's probably going to be a top lane Nocturne, even though honestly Nocturne, not one of the most played champions by EDG, may or may not be based off the fact that Nocturne, of course, is one of the most banned champions in the league. Looks like Set will not make it through. Surprisingly, it was EDG who banned it out, kind of banning out their own top laner, considering the fact that Akali and Gwen were both targeted yet again at Flandre. So we do have the Thresh lock-in coming in, Kalista ban coming out for TES, not wanting to allow EDG to basically have one of the most aggressive early game AD carries available. The Varus is still available. Lethality Varus was quite effective coming out of Viper last game. Let's see if they opt to ban it for the side of TES. EDG also looking to pinch on the other side of the spectrum, the late game scaling hyper carry AD carries that are of course facilitated by the Thresh. That kind of just leaves up the Jinx, and that's pretty much the only one that's the only regular one that's left up. TS, let's see if they opt to ban the Varus. Looks like they will not, which means that I am kind of expecting EDG to pick it. Although they might be saying, alright EDG, you go ahead and you ban out that Jinx, and then we will take the Varus and see what you do. Although truth be told, Varus I don't feel is particularly safe. It's not going to have a very warm sensation when going up against this LeBlanc and Nocturne combo, and it looks like while the Varus pick is indeed what EDG opt to ban, it looks like TES are looking to get that immobile hyper carry AD carry with the Jinx. This looks to be a top lane Lee Sin, leaving the last counter pick of course for the mid lane. And finally Draven is the ultimate lock in here, as we saw from Invictus Gaming, able to kind of steamroll Fun Plus Phoenix in the last game we streamed. It looks like Invictus Gaming kind of planning for the same thing. I don't know if Thresh facilitates a Draven as well as say a Leona, but I suppose the Thresh pick was kind of to force out some bans from EDG, and it looks like Viper is going to be put onto the Ezreal when an insta-lock karma practically comes down, and EDG not gonna have to do any trades of champions here, as every single lane just got to pick their very own champion, while TES, maybe this is a top lane counter pick with the Mundo coming out. Very unlikely that this will be a mid lane Mundo, which means we will get to see Knight on that Lee Sin in the mid lane. Not quite sure how he's going to fare. Scout is going to just continually harass him, and last game Scout was really one of the shining lights of the game for EDG, as kind of was Flandre if memory serves, because I don't think Flandre was doing all particularly bad in the last round. Of course, yet again, we will not have this time a Set to bring a Diana out of fight. We don't have the double bouncers of the Set Alistar. In fact, when Karsa gets into the members of EDG, especially this Karma, Nocturne, as well as Volibear, she really will have no problems letting the moon fall, allowing gravity to do its work. Looking at these compositions all together, mid-game power spike coming out from EDG, the same kind of can be said from the members of Top Esports, although they do scale a little bit better. Tankiness isn't really in their cards, except for Qingtian right now, who is on the Mundo, of course. So TES, although they do have scaling, they don't really have too much protection to keep the Nocturne, to keep the Volibear, to keep the LeBlanc away from their Draven, a short-ranged AD carry as well. So really, TES need to start building up some momentum and just sprint it down onto EDG, while EDG, on the other hand, just needs to get to a nice mid-game power spike and get some nice flanks and picks rolling in order to reach an outcome where they are indeed victorious. So Knowing this and looking at the matchups, we have, of course, the Nocturne able to get priority over the Mundo. We will have the LeBlanc most likely will get the priority over the Lee Sin. And then in the bot side, we have, I think, a pretty even spread here. Most likely EDG will have priority. And with a very strong early game jungler in the form of that Volibear, it's highly likely that EDG will be able to leverage the strong lanes and look to invade the Diana. Diana, of course, one of the weaker early game champions, really just wants to farm until 6, get some ganks off, and just try and scale into a very strong mid-late game team fight or skirmishing power spiky situation. So, knowing this, the early game is going to be largely dictated by EDG, and if you are an EDG fan, you really wouldn't want it any other way. The only really point of contention for TES, I think, will be in this mid and bot side. Because, of course, always want to try and get a Draven ahead. But even if TES gets Draven ahead, there's a good chance if Scout manages to stay relatively even or even get ahead slightly by himself in his own right, he will be a huge threat to this Draven altogether. I don't believe Dravens go wit's end, and Shield Bow may not be enough to save him from the burst. But honestly, this is all just speculation. Let's see how the game unwinds before our very eyes as the players take to the Rift. JJ not getting a leash off of his level 1. Not quite sure, but are the members of TES where the Volibear started out. And the poke lane coming out from the likes of the Karma as well as Ezreal will be quite something to take care of if you are this Draven, if you are JackeyLove, because of course it's hard to all in and full commit when you have been poked down, and that is where Karma does excel. She can root up a Thresh if he walks forward, she can provide the shields to disengage, she can of course provide that early game poke which is so exceptionally strong. And not to mention, her poke also doubles as the ability to shove in waves. That's why priority is heavily in favor of EDG in this bot lane. In fact, it crossed from all lanes as we see on the minimap. Now, a little cheesy level 3 clear camp coming in from Karsa into a gank as Viper perfect wards. It's kind of like he realized something as well. Flashes in with the flame. Mako just flashing out with his own flash. Exhaust is the summoner spell of choice for the support of EDG. Meanwhile, Zoa with the more aggressive ignite option. While in the mid lane, Knight trying his best to get his waves under control, but it's a little bit hard. Scout is getting a little bit low on mana, but he really doesn't need to worry too much because he does have the teleport available to him. And so, alas, nothing too much to fear. Meanwhile, in the top side, corporate Mundo just doing corporate things. Mundo goes where he pleases, ladies and gentlemen. And although Flandre probably won't be able to get a solo kill onto Qingtian anytime soon, especially as the game continues to unravel, as the Mundo gets more items, gets more experience, gets more levels, gets more stats, gets more tankiness, we really probably won't see any solo kills up towards that top side. Flandre is really just going to want to hit 6 and try to fly around the rest of the map. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, there's a little bit of trading going on back and forth, as Karsa is just enjoying the full clear abilities of Diana, a little bit behind onto JJ, of course, having taken that detour down towards bot side. But it looks like he will secure himself up a crab. So far, not too much early aggression coming out from the jungler of EDG, despite having constantly pushing lanes. But I think we just need to wait until the 6 minute and 40 second-ish mark when the next blue buff spawns for Karsa. That is probably when we will see EDG leverage this insane bot lane priority and a pretty decent mid lane priority, as it looks like a little bit of trade going south for Scout in the mid lane, and Knight is the one who is significantly ahead right now in terms of HP. Scout's passive was popped in that last exchange, so should a gank come in the next minute, he won't have the safety of being able to go invisible. Mako is also going a little bit low on mana, and so far the bot lane of TS doing a fantastic job, honestly, staying quite high on HP as Mako is flayed backwards, but Zoa just face tanking so much damage to the face. JackeyLove exhausted up as the Essence Flux comes down, auto attack after auto attack ringing through. True shot, Mystic shots as well. And although initially that looked insanely good for the members of TES, the exhaust coming down as well as the ability of Mako to just sustain up with her binding was just too much to take as Karsa comes in. Now flash is available. Mako on the other hand does not have flash as the 2 dashes were used. Mako is just being kited. Teleport is coming in. That is Knight, and it looks to be a 4-man coming down bot lane. I'm not quite sure if it is necessary, but it looks like it is, as Knight managing to secure the kill away from the members of his team. And honestly, that teleport teleport was very much needed. Didn't look like TES had enough damage as the Draven was trying to run forward as best as he could, but in the end was not able to stack in, even flashing in to try and secure the kill. But the Karma, deceptively tanky in the beginning of the game. I'm telling you again, with the shields, with the bindings. Alright, so the first move coming in from TES, they are actually the people you expect to get the first tower instead of the first blood. And we see the execution come down here. Jackie is just so low in terms of HP and mana. I'm surprised that Viper didn't try to weave in a couple of mystic shots onto him as he was running forward. You can see that Mako kind of had that idea as JJ is starting up the Dragon uncontested. And this will be the first Dragon of the game going over to top esports, as it was kind of surprising. You imagine that first split would happen on the side of EDG. Based on the statistics, EDG is more likely, 20% more likely than TES to get the first blood, and they even have the composition that kind of facilitates it, except I suppose in the bot lane where we expect TES to put most of their focus onto. Viper and Mako, as I alluded to in the last game, are perhaps the best bot lane duo right now, the most consistent. They can play any kind of duo. They can play engage, they can play scaling, they can play poke, they can play, I mean, they do play Senna, I'm going to call that scaling comp, but that is with the Karma instead of the Tahm Kench. So really, huge variety available to them, and not only can they play it, they can play at such a high level. As Flandre now looking to counter jungle both of the junglers, as Karsa is meanwhile setting up in his own very own lane, waiting for Flandre to return. Flandre is probably just biding his time, seeing if he can get an ultimate off into the mid lane. And as expected, at the 6 minute and 40-second mark, we find JJ at the enemy blue buff, stealing it away, having leveraged the mid lane and bot lane priority. And the first instance of counter jungling has begun. JJ starting to pull himself ever so slightly ahead of Karsa, of the honestly one of the veterans of the league. Now the gank might be coming through here as the root does not land. Kick away towards his very own jungler. Unfortunately, Knight will not be able to get away from this situation. There's a very nice gank coming through from JJ, securing the kill, and already a few advantages are going in favor of EDG. You can see off of the gold lead, 500 gold, 600 gold in favor, as Karsa just seems to be everywhere at once. He was in the top lane just an instant ago, and now he finds himself in the bot lane trying to get the Moonfall ultimate to work for his team, trying to get something to happen, trying to snowball a lead down towards this bottom side, as yet again Qingtian and Flandre going at it with each other up in this top lane. And Qingtian, although he is taken kind of low, Mundo is kind of one of those champions where you don't particularly mind, because of course you do have the scaling, you do have the regeneration, and of course you do have the ultimate should things kind of turn sideways. Does need to be careful though. If he gets any lower than that, when he pops his ultimate, Flandre can try and one-shot him with his ultimate. In we go with the paranoia, but the sadism has come down, and really Qingtian not taking any damage at this point in time, while Flandre is flat out of mana, completely broke I suppose, as Mundo explodes out of his suit before returning back again. JJ looks to start up this Rift Herald. Doesn't look like the bot laners will be participating in this contest should there be one. Karsa still has his ultimate available, is itching to use it, is itching to look for something, but again the LeBlanc pick into the Diana means ganking mid lane is really not too much of an option, as Zol is making his way up from bot lane, has arrived into the mid lane. Teleport is coming down. There is Qingtian as Karsa goes in over the wall, jumping straight in onto JJ. Looks like he's just going to try and secure this, trying to smite away is JJ, but ultimately he will not be able to reach it. Now he might put himself into too uncomfortable of a position, and it looks like Karsa with his last and final dash will not be able to close the distance away onto JJ. So a nice little leash coming out I suppose from the jungler of EDG for TES. Looks like it's a 6v4 here, as Zor short rotation in actually manages to dissuade anyone from trying to contest it, as in comes the engage. Ignite has gone down onto Viper, flash as well, teleport is coming in. There is Flandre, no paranoia available, and exhaust is dropped as well. Jackie will finally be able to cash in. He will indeed, so this is not so bad for him. It looks to be a 1-for-1, in fact could be a 1-for-2, as one more auto tag is still needed for Jackie to take Viper down. Ultimately the duel is won by the EDG AD carry, and Flandre's teleport was actually absolutely essential there in order to save his team, as Karsa jumping in onto Scout. Needs to be careful while Scout is trying to get his blue buff. That means that the jungler was over the wall. So a little bit of action picking up as well. Gold lead is absolutely negligible. Both teams completely even as Knight looks like they jumped on here by JJ and Scout. Nice little ward hop over the wall. And it looks like they are rotating towards both the mid laners and junglers of either team are rotating towards the top side where Qingtian is just beating down this tower. Rift Herald will be dropped. Are they trying to siege down this tower as soon as possible? I'm not sure if this is a great idea. It will give Flandre time to farm, but the beauty is that Nocturne cannot freeze waves because of course of his passive, as well as the fact that he's going to want to push out waves and roam as much as possible. So I guess it's pretty good as Karsa looks like he's going to be face checking into Diana, but the sweeper alerts him to the presence of the Diana, finally using the Moonfall. It gets taken out eventually by JJ. Scout trying to run out of the fight is burning down as in comes the Paranoia right down onto Knight. Looks like Qingtian is trying to peel as best as he can for his mid lane as the Lantern comes out. Dragon's Rage as well as Flandre is kicked away from Knight and towards his own tower. Qingtian trying his best to get a kill. Flash forward is Qingtian after Flandre, and it looks like this is too much as he might have gone a smidge too far. The passive coming down means he won't be CC'd, but Scout still chasing. That's not the real Scout, that is a clone. And Qingtian manages to waddle his way out of that situation that he kind of got himself into, nearly getting a kill onto the opponent top laner. And although he hasn't been in lane for a little while now, Flandre is still ahead in terms of gold. TES though as a collective are 1k ahead of their counterparts in EDG, as even the Rift Herald getting a charge off as this scuffle unwinds over here in Karsa. Unfortunately, just not tanky enough to take the burst of Scout and to take the follow-up coming in from JJ. And this is real nice play here coming from Knight. Very quick kick into a Lantern into safety, and then from that point on, Qingtian is like, oh, maybe I can get a kill here. Unfortunately for him, he was not able to, as the Wind Dragon does go over to TES, which means it is a Mountain Soul in this game. Of course, Jackie Love would have preferred the alternative, probably. Oh wait, that would be Ocean Soul. Nah, not really anyone would prefer that. Mountain Soul is pretty huge for members of TES. It will make them all collectively tankier. It will make them harder to assassinate, and of course, it will benefit their Lee Sin as well as, more importantly, their Mundo significantly. There could be a little bit of a tussle going on here for the Scuttle Crab as bot Pyro is in TES's favor while mid Pyro is in EDG's favor. Hook goes into JJ as the Lantern for it as well. Everyone jumping in and a quick follow up into the Karma. Does Karsa go, and Jackie Love picking himself up yet another kill. JJ forced to blast plant over the wall. Meanwhile, Knight is chasing Scout towards the bot side as the remainder of TES are in hot pursuit. I was gonna say they have a concave set up right onto Scout, but that wasn't really true because they weren't moving fast enough. Meanwhile, in the top side, Qingtian is just pillaging and plundering. Corporate Mundo does as he pleases, and it's taxation time, I suppose, as he just takes away the top lane, top side jungle of EDG. Right now, TES, the game is in a position where TES exactly where they want it to be. They are getting gold onto their Draven. He's cashed in twice so far. EDG haven't really been able to do too much. Their Mundo is getting to the stage where he's going to be kind of unkillable. The only champion that's going to be able to kill him come the late game is this Ezreal. And honestly, Ezreal is probably going to be only going to be able to auto attack him because that Mundo is going to be popping his ultimate and making a beeline. Meanwhile, it looks like it's going to be an attempt made on Scout's life here. Distortion 4. He's going to use his ultimate to get a second distortion to get away from the oncoming onslaught of TES, and that's the beauty of the LeBlanc pick, I suppose. Look at how much mobility she has, especially once she hits 6. Able to clear the waves and not have any fear of being jumped onto after, not having any fear of I forgot what the word is I'm trying to look for. Meanwhile, Jackie Love in the bot side here feeling kind of safe, knowing that Zoa is coming down from the mid lane and he has arrived. The members of EDG have no idea where this Thresh is, but looks like they are going to play it safe, not wanting to run in and int it into the Draven anymore, as he is getting kind of far ahead in terms of items. It looks like he's working towards his Eclipse right now, as Jackie Love stepping forward aggressively, yet again using his Blood Rush to just take a step forward, see if he can get an auto attack down onto either Viper and Mako. Mako does need to be careful, as now is beyond the point where he can be considered tanky. That base innate tankiness from just his spells and his stats are not going to count for much against an Essence Reaver Draven at 14 minutes. Flandre still looking to make a Paranoia play towards this mid lane, and Knight is in range. Jump forward by Scout. The root does land. In comes the Paranoia as the Dragon's Rage disengages Scout away. Flandre forced to disengage with his own Stride Breaker, and just like that, unfortunately, as hard as it is for TES to engage onto this LeBlanc, it is equally as difficult for Flandre to get anything done onto Knight in the mid lane. And there's a very good consideration coming in from the members of TES with their mid lane pick. Now, looking at the goal, it's still about 2,000 in favor of TES. The next objective on the map is going to be Rift Herald, which is why we see Zuo up here with Karsa looking to get some deep vision down. Blue buff is going to be the invade of choice, as the blue buff is actually at 50 HP, actually manages to go in favor of Scout as Engage comes in, going right onto JJ. This will be huge if they do manage to take him down eventually, as a hook coming down onto Scout. Scout does have the distortion to get away from this, however, as the Ignite was thrown down by Zuo. Rift Herald is, of course, what this contest is for, and it looks to be going in favor of TES. JJ will not be up in time to attempt for a contest. Meanwhile, Scout just poking forward, trying to see if he can get something done here, just trying to clear out whatever vision he can, and so far managing to clear out a decent amount. And Scout, nearly getting tagged up by the death sentence. Luckily, he did not take a step forward, which Zuo fully expected him to do. Nice little bit of unpredictability being weaved in there by the mid laner of EDG. And Karsa is taking his own sweet time doing this. JJ has spawned out into the map, but looks like he's making a beeline towards the dragon that is spawning in 50 seconds time. Jackie Love needs to be careful, doesn't want to get picked off here, as him dying would definitely signal that this dragon has to be given up by the members of TES. And already TES are onto the map, but EDG have first movement into the river, and Jackie Love just being spotted out here. There is a flash available for no champion, as the speed up comes in from the Karma as well as the Q from the Volibear, and thankfully Jackie Love managing to barely scrape out of that awful situation that he nearly found himself in there. So honestly, his pathing, magnificently greedy if you ask me. Anyways, let's see what unfolds before our very eyes as TES manages to reset back out onto the map. Despite their first movement into the river, EDG did not have any wards available, having warded up the top side of their jungle. So right now, vision is kind of in favor. EDG have more wards out, they've got more vision established onto the map, but the thing is their vision is all safe vision in their top side jungle. They need to now shift it over towards the bottom side, and TES with mid priority will be able to contest this as the lantern out into safety thankfully is available for Jackie Love, who yet again found himself in a pretty precarious position. Now the battle for that bush unfolds. There's 4 members of EDG here to the 3 of TES. Karsa is looking for an avenue, does have the stopwatch available, throws out the crescent sweep, but does not manage to get anything other than a very tanky Volibear as a flash forward by Zuo. Paranoia is popped as well to try and stymie the aggression away, but Flandre jumping in onto Knight, kind of chunking him out to a half HP. Knight does have the Dragon's Rage available, can just opt to use it, but it looks like he's just going to jump over the wall, doesn't really want to use it, wants to wait for an opportunity, and now he needs to use it, but the distortion's going to get Scout right back into range. Meanwhile, there's another scuffle going down in the river. It looks like Knight is going to be taken out here, either solo by Scout or by the rest of the team unfolding, but meanwhile TES, the remainder are going for the dragon. It is at 1.4k HP. JJ running forward, does not manage to smite steal it away, as Karsa managing to secure it is trying to disengage. And eventually, after all that posturing, after all that movement, TES does run away with the dragon. Looks like they're going to take mid lane tier 3 tower as well. EDG out of position, will not be able to stop this, will not be able to deny this, will not be able to make a play across the map either, as Knight actually absolutely buying his team so much time by just taking Flandre out of the fight by being so juicy, and then taking Scout out of the fight in pretty much the same manner as well. So very nice plays coming out here from the mid lane star of TES. And as the map kind of goes into its downward cycle into a more peaceful mode, we are only 8 kills down in this 18-minute game, and overall it's been a pretty not so bloody game, but there still has been quite a bit of action, as now we see the jungler and support of EDG trying to fish for something, trying to fish for the businessman of TES, and as we mentioned him, he's about to walk right into this bush of 2 people, and right now Scout is trying to rotate over, but he is fairly tanky with only 1 item, with only his mythic. Qingtian is not particularly easy. Qingtian is not a particularly easy character to fell in this current point in time. Now Flandre doesn't have the burst, not sure if he has the consistent damage to kill out Knight. Was able to clear out Lantern. Was able to clear out the wave relatively easily with his Strike Breaker as well as his passive. He pops Paranoia jumping in onto Knight, but it's a 4v1 situation. Teleport is coming down, there is Scout, but the death sentence landing will pretty much mean that nothing can happen here. True Shot Barrage going through Zuo and Knight, chunking them pretty low as Jackie Love is jumped in too. Heal was popped, not really necessary, but you know what, safety first I suppose, as he doesn't really know how strong that LeBlanc is. Hasn't really had had the experience, the ability to gauge her strengths thus far. And face tanking a LeBlanc isn't really the best way to gauge her strength as an AD carry. You kind of just want to see someone else get one-shotted first, I suppose. Now, the map, again, is a little bit more peaceful. There's no objective on the map for the members of EDG and TES to contest. They do, however, have the minor objective of EDG's blue buff that is spawning, and it just so happens that it's spawning on the same side of the map as Baron, which is up in about 12 seconds time. And right now, TES seemed poised to begin their excursion into the top lane of EDG. In fact, now just securing themselves mid-priority. They do have Qingtian with teleport in the bot side, with Karsa coming down as well. EDG right now are more grouped. Paranoia is not available, unfortunately, or JackieLove, I think, would be instantly pounced onto here by the members of EDG. Really, their engage is not so strong as it looks like. What the heck? How did they know he was there? What sorcery was that, as the pink ward was dropped ultimately by Zoa, landing a nice death sentence. And I'm not sure how they knew that he was in that position, as Viper is jumped onto there by Karsa. Meanwhile, JackieLove in turn is jumped onto by Scout, and Scout managing to take JackieLove out of the fight. Karsa finds himself coming out of his stopwatch in a 1v4 situation, and really there's no coming back from that. So far, Scout doing a fantastic job buying time for his team, zoning the most fed member of TES away. Now JackieLove starting this fight at 1/3 HP is not going to be very comfortable. Does have the red buff, of course, does have the lifesteal off of the Raptors camp to sustain himself back up. Qingtian is in base looking for a teleport opportunity. Being the front liner, he needs to teleport in the front. Flanks are not what you look for in this current situation. TES want to take a straight up front to back. And right now, TES are very split off. If he takes this death sentence, that would most likely lead to his death. And blue buff, yet again, as mentioned, is the point of contestation. Qingtian nearly stealing away, walking forward into 5 members of the team. JackieLove is so far behind right now. He's not even going to be able to do damage. Qingtian kind of inting it down as he just immediately chunked out. JackieLove being jumped onto there by JJ. He's been exhausted, but Knight's in the thick of it, killing out Flandre. Scout's taking exception. No, kick down off JJ right into JackieLove, and JackieLove is just carving up the remainder of EDG. Viper jumps into the pit, but aggro's Baron with the essence shift. And right now it is a 2-for-4 trade in favor of TES. And JackieLove, despite being there so late, Qingtian, despite going in so early, was absolutely able to change the fight. Scout jumping forward does need to be careful, however, as the stand aside was used, was not able to knock him out of position. The axe coming from a distance away, and I don't think Scout is going to be able to do anything. That being said, upon respawn in 40 seconds time, Dragon is spawning. That is going to be the 3rd Dragon for TES as the Sonic Wave comes out, nearly getting tagged out. Knight would have one-shotted him absolutely with the God Drinker as well as the E available, which in fact is both being used in the mid lane to just get some priority. Does have the teleport available. As TES now resetting onto the map, Karsa taking his time to do the Krugs, which means that if EDG just come out onto the map and start rushing Dragon, this could be theirs. And I see what unfolds here. Qingtian absolutely face tanking everything before his team can get into position. I thought there was a slight bit of a misplay. And JackieLove from over the wall. I think EDG, good job jumping in onto him here with JJ. But Knight just jumping in, actually weaving in the bullet, getting Flandre in the midst of everything, and then delivering a first-class bear package straight into the arms of JackieLove, easily shutting him down. And after this, Viper, unfortunately, in his desperation to get away from JackieLove, does aggro Baron, and that kind of leads to his death as already is engaged out here. It's a 3v5 situation. TES are very deep, but Qingtian is doing his job. He is frontlining. Karsa is still doing up Dragon, and Knight is not in position for this. JackieLove looks like he's going to be assassinated here by Scout. Scout jumps in over the wall, does manage to take him out with everything. The spell bow, the shield bow does come through as JJ flashing in as well. JackieLove is taken out, and in comes Karsa trying to take out Viper, but the damage does not come through. Qingtian now is the only one hacking away at him, and finally the Crescent Strike does take out Viper. It is a 1-for-2 situation as Knight jumps into a very crowded room. EDG significantly out personnelling TES at this point in time, and it looks like TES taking a fight they definitely shouldn't have taken. Every member is going to fall here as Knight desperately trying to get a kill onto Flandre, trying to get something back for his team. Karsa is being left for a Scout, and ultimately everyone goes down. Mako taking out the mid laner of TES, and now the game swings in favor of EDG. Gold-wise, they are still significantly behind, but they will get the second Dragon. They will stop the pressure of Mountain Soul being put onto them. And TES, severe over-aggression. Qingtian, JackieLove, and Zuo running into the red buff, contesting the 5 members of EDG, while Karsa was doing Dragon, while Knight was towards the top side of the map. Not quite sure what underwent there. As we see on the minimap, literally, Knight is up in top lane. No teleport available. Actually, wait, he did have teleport available. What the heck is going on? Why didn't he teleport? Oh, he couldn't see. The paranoia came down. He couldn't see. He had to start running down. But now the teleport's available. Not quite sure why he's not using it. And then Scout getting into position. Honestly, Scout's LeBlanc in this season has been absolutely exceptional. It's easy to see why it is his most played champion. And then the full committal coming out from EDG. Karsa meanwhile at the back there trying his best to get Viper. Eventually though, manages to get him with that last Crescent Strike after Qing Tian just distracts the remainder of the team. And Jack and Knight jumping forward. I think he was looking for a kick across one member to just knock up the remainder of EDG. Unfortunately, things did not go his way, and TES now have been kind of checked in the face. Still 4,000 gold ahead in terms of overall gold, but obviously, EDG are still able to win fights, as we have just seen with their composition, with JackeyLove just instantly being pounced onto there by Scout. Zuo was not in a position to save him with the Lantern. In fact, a Lantern would have led Draven into even more perilous positions. Scout actually doing some good damage down onto Qing Tian's Paranoid comes down as well. Sadism is popped as the movement speed comes down. The regeneration is coming in as well, but they do have healing cut. The Oblivion Orb is ticking away, and Qing Tian yet again picked off. Right now, it's a 5v4 situation. No objectives on the map, however, but I think that TES actually did not get anything out of their Baron because they all got killed. Oh, actually that was massive for EDG, able to stall out the game even further. Scaling wise, of course, both teams are relatively even, and that means that was a huge shift in favor of EDG. And now Scout jumping forward is able, as we saw, to even chunk out the tank with his Morellonomicon. 12 stacks on his Magi's. Haven't taken a check in at the items for a while. AD carry wise, we have JackeyLove significantly ahead, one whole item with the Infinity Edge comfortably sitting in his pocket. In the mid lane, we have 2.5 items per person. Right now, Scout's Magi's I'm going to count as half an item until he hits about 15 stacks, at which point that's going to be a huge Magi's and it's going to count as one whole item. Meanwhile, JJ does have his Zonias, as does Karsa. Both of the junglers having completed their mythic items actually going for the Zonias. Does have the protection as well. Ooh, Scout, nice distortion forward just to Scout. Not sure if he saw that Death Sentence and Crescent Strike coming in, and EDG, it's like they know that TES have a thing for their blue buff and they try to get it. Unfortunately, TES nothing to be had over here, and Qing Tian, he was significantly far ahead in my opinion, but now is kind of even with Flandre because of the couple of ints that he's just pulled off in the last two, I'm never going to say team fights, last two instances of combat, let's just say. Now let's see what happens for the remainder of the game over here. Baron is spawning in a minute's time. TES have just resetted from the base, so let's see who is going to attempt to contest Vision. EDG, first movement advantage, do have a fresh batch of walls on Mako and can look to secure the Vision as necessary. JackeyLove needs to be careful, stepping out quite far forward. The Mystic Shot does a lot of damage with that Muramana having been completed. Now Karsa fish checking into Scout. Scout needs to be careful, however, he's the one who is in a perilous position, but the Paranoia is activated. Knight is being jumped onto. JJ using the Stormbringer to close the distance as the True Shot Barrage coming through as well had no more mobility available to him. TES is caught in their own jungle. Qing Tian this time is not him, but his mid laner who gets caught, and EDG just so good at looking for picks off of Scout. Scout is just finding the avenues, and then EDG were of course in the river first, keeping the rest of TES away. A beautiful time to find a pick as the two solo laners of TES go down. Unfortunately for EDG, mid lane priority seems to be something they are struggling with in spite of the number advantage. Scout is pushing up the top side, trying to take out that last outer tower of the game. Oh wait, no, it's not. What the heck, TES have still managed to maintain their mid lane outer tower. Dragon is spawning in 57 seconds, but right now Baron seems to be what EDG are motioning for, as the Surrealist Battle Song is propped Lantern right into the thick of it, but JackeyLove turning it right around onto Mako, who's instantly exploded. And right now, without Scout in the area, the rest of TES have nothing to fear, it seems, as Flandre now hit up by the Sonic Wave. Knight trying to get an insect down onto him, but Flash is forced from Flandre. Teleport is coming out. There is Qing Tian, and just as quickly as it flew into TES, into EDG's advantage, is now in TES's advantage as Scout looking for an angle, nearly one-shotting JackeyLove with just a distortion as well as a Q, I suppose, as Viper trying to get some harass down onto him. Paranoia is proc. JackeyLove has used the Lantern into safety. Shredder's Battle Song is as well activated, and with the Paranoia, EDG are able to get TES off of the Baron, but they just re-continue it again. Scout is just looking to try and jump forward, and one-shot JackeyLove. Right now, they're on the same side of the map. JackeyLove does need to be careful as Scout jumping forward onto Zor instead. Zor, of course, is that point of safety, but Karsa goes with a huge ultimate, getting 3 people. Everyone's jumping in. JackeyLove takes a circle, flashing forward into Viper, but Viper is taken out. Scout trying his darkness, but is kicked out of the fight. JJ running forward onto JackeyLove, does manage to pounce onto him, use the W as well as the Q to win that fight, but ultimately he will be taken down, and this is a 3 4-2 trade in favor of EDG, and they continue Baron. 2 members of EDG are available. Scout does have teleport, it's just going to reset quickly. Knows that TES doesn't have the highest damage output. Knight nearly cancelling his teleport inadvertently, as in it comes from the red buff camp of TES' side of the jungle. Knight is jumping on to Mako, but his 2 teammates need to be careful as they might just get one-shotted here. In fact, Knight looks like the target here as he jumps into Mako. Scout is being ran away from, as now he sees that he needs to try and one-shot Karsa. Qingtian trying to play goalkeeper does a fair bit of damage with his enhanced power, but Knight is just keeping Mako out completely, and when he sees Scout, just runs towards Mako, runs past Mako, in fact, towards EDG's side of the map, towards safety, as Qingtian now arrives to provide whatever safety he can for his own mid laner. I think every single member of TES, maybe not Jackie, did get the Baron buff because of how long that take took, and ultimately, after round of team fighting, we have the Baron buff again in favor of TES, but it looks like Dragon is going to go over to EDG, and now they are the ones on Soul Point. EDG clawing their way up from 1 dragon only to now 3 are threatening Soul at 30 minutes in the game. 35 minutes is the time, is the golden moment where we will begin to see more explosive team fights, if that was even possible. Zoa here doing a fantastic job getting away from the rest of his team actually, and then Karsa jump in with a 3-man, although it might not look like it did too much damage. Look at Karsa just absolutely decimating Viper, and Jackie realizing that he needed to get away from JJ flashes into Viper for that last auto attack, but ultimately JJ always gets his man. The bear always gets what he wants, and in the end he wanted Jackie's head on a spike, and he got Jackie's head on a spike. Now the siege has begun already immediately. TES off to a better start with their Baron buff than they did in the last take, which was of course stripped away from them, from every single member of their team by the 5-man teamfight win in the bot side jungle of EDG. Whoo! Looking at the goals, the goal lead is still maintained at 4,000 in favor of TES. Jackie is at 5 items. It is now 4 items for the members of 4 items for Qingtian, 4 items for Karsa, 3.5 items for Knight, and of course 1 item for the lovely support Mimo on side of EDG. We have 3 items onto Flanger, we have 3 items on JJ, and we have 5 items, I suppose, because right now Magi's is definitely an item. Scout playing exceptionally well, a completely clean score. Jackie being jumped onto by Flandre. It looks like Scout being in the area as well with those Magi stacks. Now that book is completely full to the brimming. Jackie caught massively out of position, and although he nearly managed to kill Scout, ultimately it was Scout who managed to kill him first. In fact, if we are honest, I think if Jackie sees Scout coming with the lack of resistances on the side of Scout, there's a good chance that Jackie actually one-shots him. As Viper stepping forward very aggressively, needs to be careful. If Karsa pulled the trigger there, I don't know if he would have survived it. He is kind of tanky, of course, with the Divine Sunder, as well as maybe the little bit of resistances you get from Serelda's. Though I don't think it gives you any resistances actually. Could have sworn it gives you a little bit of HP. Now Karsa needs to be careful. If he face checks into Scout, Scout will one-shot him. Scout does have a fully stacked Magi's. That book is so powerful, it's literally filled to the brim. But it looks like they are going to back off the members of EDG. Baron is about to wear off in 10 seconds time, and Jackie has come out onto the map with a null magic mantle, not really wanting to experience that level of one-shottage again. But at this point, I don't know if there really is a defensive item that can save him from a 25 stack Magi. LeBlanc coming at him with full speed, always looking for the angles to just take him out completely. He could of course opt for the Edge of Night, but I'm not sure if this is the patch where the Anathema's chains are available. I think he would love that item right now, truth be told. I don't know if it helps you against AP. I think it does. It just negates X percentage of damage. As Scout now jumping over the walls, just trying to get into the best position possible to one-shot Jackie, who right now stepping forward quite aggressively. Zuo will not be able to save him from this level one-shottage, as Jackie needs to be careful. Qingtian finally spotting out Scout, thankfully, to the collective sigh of relief being breathed for the remainder of TES and their fan base, as despite being so far ahead in terms of goal, only 3k actually at this point in time, Jackie and the rest of TES are not really able to step forward so safely because they don't have very much vision on their wings, and Scout is just skulking, is just prowling on the sides, and the TES members know that. TES members know that really the only person who can face tank a full rotation of that LeBlanc's burst is this Mundo. But luckily for them, he is a little bit low on mana. He's only at about half right now. And Flandre is off towards the side lanes, trying to get a wave crashed towards TES. But yet again, see Ching Tian being chunked a little bit there by Scout. Scout, this is not really a power position for him because TES know exactly where he is. TES are keeping him in the front line, away, some would say, from the squishies, even though Jackie Love does have the propensity to really run forward into team fights. The Scout jumping forward as well. Not only is he looking for Jackie Love, he's also looking for that support. He's looking for Zuo. Because if he can kill Zuo, it means that Jackie Love will have a lot less protection, especially from that lantern. Now Dragon is spawning in 55 seconds time, which signals some recalls being channeled for EDG. Synchronized recalls for the bot lane as JJ doing a great job blocking for his support. Needed to refuel on the support items, needed to get that chem tank purifier completed. Stopwatch, of course, is in his pocket as well. Now let's take a quick inventory. We have one Zhonya's on the side of TES, and we have one Zhonya's as well as a stopwatch on the side of EDG. Scout opting for the death cap as his sixth and final item, which means he will not have any safety available to him if he is caught, if he is insect into the team, if he is brought in front of the gaze of Jackie Love within auto attack reach for just a second. Jackie Love will absolutely one-shot him. Scout with a huge flank off. I'm not sure if he's been spotted out, but if he walks into the jungle, he will be, as now he's just barely, he's playing with the vision. I think they've spotted him. Yep, they're moving in to intercept him now. Jackie Love does need to be careful as he is the furthest behind. Paranoia is popped, but Scout has been spotted. Jackie Love is sitting on the lantern, but is still playing it safe, autoing the dragon. Scout has been spotted out. They don't have vision on him, I believe. And Zuo lands a death sentence. Could this be a Carson jumping in for it? Scout forced to flash out of that situation, but Knight insecting him right into a death sentence. Oh, Zuo nearly getting him with the death sentence, but finally the last auto attacks all the needs. Viper does get a constellation prize, that blue buff, and with Scout going down, with the Magi stacks having fluttered into the air, with the books exploding, TES will secure themselves a Dragon Soul. We're a 7-dragon game. Baron is up as well, and TES are running forward to try and get it. A lot was used to get Scout there, but every single one of those spells was most definitely worth it, as Viper jumping forward aggressively, managing to get some Mystic Shards onto Knight, actually chunking him out exceptionally. In comes the True Shot Barrage, only really tagging up Ching Tian and Jackie Love. Both have insane sustain. Knight does have teleport available. Scout is still dead for 20 seconds. Ultimates are still available for the side of EDG, are most of them. Meanwhile, TES do not have the Moonfall, do not have the Whirling Death, but it looks like Baron will not last a moment longer. Honestly, wow, Knight recalled and came back and Baron was dead. That's insane amount of damage output coming out from TES. And right now things are just going TES's way. Gold lead 5.5k in their favor, and this is a huge game for the members of both TES and EDG. Of course, TES trying to improve their record while EDG trying to maintain their position atop the tables. Karsa right now with this Diana has been absolutely key. Zuo so far has managed to hit some stellar hooks, has managed to be in position to constantly be a very comforting safety bubble for Jackie Love, as we see here. Scout just being chased by Knight. Knight knows he just needs to get that LeBlanc out of the fight, and Zuo a blind hook into the tri-bush without vision. Karsa immediately turning. They know that Jackie Love doesn't need any safety. The best safety they can provide him is just one-shotting Scout, and we see Zuo trying to get him out here, but the box was indeed all that was necessary to finish him off as a last auto attack flew in. I think that was from the Draven, and now at 15 stacks, Scout still not parting ways with his book just yet. It's still considered at least an item. It's not broken right now, but it's providing him a ton of AP, and he can still look to get some kills as Jackie Love stepping forward there. Knight having to allow his mid lane, his AD carry to get that, as Ching Tian's teleporting straight into 5 people. Scout is on the flanks. Jackie Love meanwhile needs to be careful. He is in the front line away from Scout, but if he walks too far to the side, Scout will absolutely one-shot him as Shredder's battle song is popped. TES realize that Scout is on the flanks. They need to just run forward into the members of EDG. Ultimates are available as well, warding up the backline. Knight meanwhile playing goalkeeper, wanting to just jump onto Scout. Scout getting a sonic wave to the face, but in the front lines, Engage is going down. Ching Tian is just in the front. Karsa with a 4-man ultimate. Ultimately, Ching Tian still tanking up the damage. Meanwhile, Knight is keeping Scout busy, and that's really all he needs to do. 4v4 situation, I think TES are absolutely winning it, are absolutely enjoying themselves, but looks like Scout wanting to turn it back onto Knight, getting a ton of damage down with the chains as well as the sigil, but the siege continues. Karsa a little bit low, will not have Zhonya's, will not have Flash, will not have his ultimate available, but Jackie Love now has full permission to step forward as aggressively as he wants. No paranoia is available, and meanwhile, Scout and Knight are still going at it. Ultimately, oh, it is Scout who takes him out with the last sigil. A very close fight, but with sacrificing his life, Flandre jumping onto Zuo. Zuo being one-shotted by the damage coming out from Viper, as well as the rest of the team. His income Scout, it is a teleport available. Karsa is going to be one-shotted, as is Jackie of Qingtian. Looks like he's going to be abandoned here. Flashed over the wall. Scout jumping forward with the distortion, looking to cut him off. Knight is still dead for 30 seconds. There's no one to save the remaining members of TES in this situation. A lot of sustain coming out, but looks like they've been corralled into a tight position. Karsa tanking a missing shot to the face will be taken out here as Qingtian pops his ultimate, trying to frontline, trying to block as many skill shots as possible. Scout wanting to jump in over the wall. And eventually, they do. JJ jump in. Karsa is nearly one-shotting Scout, actually, as Jackie Love is just trying to defend his jungler with his life. Flandre is taken out, but Qingtian's bought enough time. Has he bought enough time? Looks like he has not, unfortunately, as Viper flashing forward with the Mystic Shot. And eventually, the members of EDG will clean up TES. That was a long, drawn-out chase as EDG holding on to their lives this game with their fingernails. So far, explosive team fighting going through. Really, Knight doing his best, but the mobility of LeBlanc, unfortunately, is much more than the mobility of a Lee Sin, especially if the Sonic Waves do not connect. One would think this is like a playoff game of sorts, but I suppose it can be considered to be, because of course the playoff slots are not. There are not that many playoff slots available, and teams need to be careful. Need to not lose too much in the early game. Of course, the more wins you get in the beginning of the split, the more of a cushion you have to try things, to really get together as a team, and when you hit a rough patch, at least it gives you some space to fall back onto. Now, Dragon is spawning in 30 seconds time. EDG, yet again, first movement advantage, and really face checking blind as TES into a LeBlanc is pretty scary. Knight is in a flanking position, but he does have Zuo to extract him. Need to be careful, however, as Zuo and Knight could be collapsed upon, as we see here. Viper and Mako, nice hook coming out onto Mako. This is catastrophic, as Mako does not have the ability to get out of that fight, but Knight is one-shotted out before Mako gets taken down. Mako actually managing to run out of the fight, but eventually the Whirling Death comes in. Flandre jumping onto Karsa. Karsa still has ultimate available. No, he doesn't actually, as Flandre goes gold, and Qingtian just stepping in front of the top laner of EDG, just tanking out every Mystic Shot. And although it does kind of sting, ultimately his ultimate running is enough to just sustain him up in the fight. They're gonna pull the dragon away, but JJ, positioning himself across the wall, is able to just put, and Scout jumps in, tries to steal it, but Jackie ultimately gets it. Needed to be careful, Scout. He really can't stay in there for a moment too long. One more auto attack from Jackie would have meant him meeting a very painful and one-shotting death, as Dragon Soul ultimately falls in favor of TES. Knight really not too tanky at all, but doing his job yet again. Running interference. Mako, somehow a magician in that moment of time. Death sentence landing, and yet still just popping the stopwatch, I think. I don't know how he survived from this. I guess he just manages to run away from this fight as JJ runs in to just allow him to escape. Storm bring out, but the Whirling Death ultimately was perfect. And interestingly enough, Flandre jumping in onto Karsa, really doing negative damage, not even really running much, not really even being too much of a whoa. That is a huge window. That's a 5-item window, I suppose, but that is a statutorily wise huge window. That is a colossal man right there. Dang. Anyways, Baron is spawning in 20 seconds time. That's why we see the members of TES just huddling together in this jungle, this one point of safety. They know that EDG have no vision here. They know that they do not want to get caught out. And now the game is at the point, ladies and gentlemen, where the gold lead almost doesn't matter anymore. Everyone is heading towards their 5th and 6th item. And at this point in time, the death timers are so long, it really is just down to execution and warding. If whoever loses a person is at a huge disadvantage, and Scout really trying to make it happen. Jackie Love is nearly taken out. Oh my goodness. Just as I was saying that, EDG's mid laner trying to make it happen for his team. All he needs to do is one-shot Jackie Love and they win the fight. They win. They just immediately win. They win and they might even end the game. So really, Jackie Love, a lot of pressure is mounting onto his shoulders now, and the damage is coming from everywhere on the side of EDG. Actually, honestly, on the side of EDG, it's just coming from Viper as well as Flandre. But on the side of TES, that's where the damage is really coming from everywhere. It's coming from Karsa, it's coming from Jackie Love, it's coming from Knight to a certain extent as well. So now, whoever loses a person is at a huge disadvantage. Scout goes down, EDG pretty much lose as well. And it's gotten to the point where one team fight win, one 5-man gone. Once the carries are dead, the game will end as Paranoia is activated. Scout jumping forward aggressively. This corrals TES out of the fight. Already Baron was taken down to half HP. JJ taking a lot of damage, but Scout is in front of TES. This is exactly where the members of Top Esports want him to be. Qingtian is kind of chunked. Does have the teleport available. Can look to channel his recall. Can just use his ultimate, I suppose, to channel himself back up to over powerful to top himself back up, but looks like he has the passive regeneration, and look at him just ticking forward. Doesn't even have a Warmogs in my opinion. Looking like he wanted to start up Baron. EDG can always look to peel back and just run it down mid lane. Flandre already getting mid lane priority, putting some pressure onto TS. TS are going to need to make something happen. It looks like Jackie Love starting up Baron, already chunking it to really low health. Flandre does not have paranoia, but Scout jumping forward, trying one-shot Qingtian. Qingtian pops his ultimate. In comes the rest of TES. Looks like a good disengage coming out from EDG in response, and it looks like TES will not be able to get anything here. This is catastrophic. EDG are still so healthy. They are just defending TES from going back into the mid lane. In fact, they are just poking and prodding. Scout is recalling. Will have teleport available. Will he just teleport down the mid lane? But if he teleports down the mid lane, this will definitely go in favor of TES. In fact, just the sight of him recalling triggers TES to jump in onto the Baron buff, securing it for themselves. Scout in the middle nearly takes out Jackie Love. Eventually gets taken out by Jackie Love, and Jackie Love is completely safe, full HP in the back lines. Now running forward aggressively. Yes, flash onto as Viper jumps in as well. But the lantern is available. The flash was available. Ooh, Jackie Love playing so aggressively as the hook comes down onto Flandre, but Viper is so healthy right now. In comes Karsa, one-shotting Flandre. Mako going into the Zhonya's not gonna save him as JJ is taken out as well. Qingtian with the flank. Viper without mana. Honestly, things are looking kind of catastrophic for EDG as he nearly takes out Jackie Love, but thankfully Jackie Love did have the did have the Guardian Angel. Oh, Viper is kiting like his life depends on it, and at this point in time it really does, but I don't think the members of TES have the ability to chase him down. It looks like they will, because Viper is being corralled deeper and deeper into the TES side of the map. Will he try to essence? Oh no, it's not. He's there in no safety here. As Jackie Love now has you in his sights, and there really is. As that's all Viper could do to stall out the game further. Whew. Oh my goodness, this is an exciting game right here, ladies and gentlemen. If nothing else, Corporate Mundo just chilling like a villain, I suppose. In this case, he really is quite a big villain, bodyguarding for Jackie Love. That being said, Scout is out on the map, and if Scout jumps in over the wall, there's really nothing that Qingtian can do to lend all his tankiness or lend his strength to Jackie Love. Would be impossible, unfortunately. And Scout skulking off towards the side. Viper, unfortunately, by delaying the push so much, he's also delayed his death timer quite significantly. At 20 seconds, most likely things will be fine as Scout jumps on right onto Flandre. Sorry, jumping right onto Jackie Love. Jackie Love is decimated. Scout taken out of the fight as well by Karsa, and right now Flandre looks like he's gonna be beaten down by Knight and Qingtian. And right now the game is looking kind of doomed, but Viper is gonna be up in a few seconds time, and really all they need to do is buy time for Viper. So trading lives is not so bad. Unfortunately, it's gonna be a 3v4 situation. Ultimates will not be available, however. Unfortunately, this is really catastrophic as JJ is caught in the front lines, right onto the box, right onto the flay, and against all odds, against what everyone believed, against what everyone could have fathomed, the TES are actually going to dent EDG's perfect score and barrel it down the mid lane. Even through Scout's LeBlanc play, even through Viper's Ezreal, even through the coordination of EDG, even through the mistakes they've made in the red buff area of the mistakes that TES made in their own red buff area, TES, with a new top laner, have managed to fell the unfellable EDG. And in this moment of time, ladies and gentlemen, we can appreciate the beauty of esports, because apparently the underdog, not only esports actually, we can appreciate the beauty of the LPL, because even a mid-tier team that we know to be a strong team will rise to the occasion at times and just take out one of the contenders for first place. Oh, that game was a bit too hype, if you ask me. I absolutely loved it. So thank you guys so much for watching. TES versus EDG has been an absolute pleasure to cast for you guys, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya!